What's up, everybody? Metal Dave Glessner here, along with my co-host Jason McMaster, bringing you another episode of the Talk Louder podcast. Today, we are joined by guest Mark Zonder, drummer extraordinaire. You probably know him best from his work with Fate's Warning, but he's done many other things, including A through Z, a band that he's got with Ray Alder, his former singer in Fate's Warning, hence the name A through Z. Alder through Zonder, I guess.
I like that. As soon as that got explained to me, it hit me like a hammer because I didn't, there used to be a band called A2Z, but then when Mark came on, we learned a lot real quick about what was going on with that.
Mark also, of course, has a long-running band called Warlord, dates all the way back to the early 80s. They've got a new album coming out in May of next year. We talk a little bit about that.
They're one of the early Metal Blade bands.
Yeah, they were on. I think they got maybe their first recording was on Metal.
I think it was. Massacre. They're on one of the early Metal Massacres.
On one of the early, that's right. And
he was the go-to. He was the go-to guy to helped label mates get their drums sounding good in the studio for Bill Matoyer and Brian Slagle. All kinds of bands. I think his snare is on a DRI album.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it is.
So Mark is a very busy man. Besides the A through Z record that I've been sort of listening to, it's been out, I think he said almost a year. I thought it was August of last year, but it sounds like it was out even longer than that. I'm not sure.
Time flies.
But it's a great album, and he's already well underway with the second A through Z record. So we had a great time picking his brain today. We talked about Fate's Warning. We talked about A through Z, and we also.
I'm glad that you jumped. Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, I'm glad that you jumped in at the end there and said, "Wait, we got to talk about Warlord," because I feel like that's an important part of Mark's whole thing.
Yeah,
is his time with Warlord. I mean, I know people that have Warlord tattoos.
Yeah. Yeah,
and I'm like, damn, dude, you know what I mean? And just, they're kind of one of those underground bands that, you either know, or if you know kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. And besides all of his music, he runs a studio. I think he's out in L.A. or the California
I think so.
area.
Which he has for, that would make sense for the Metal Blade bands that he used to help back in the day, prior to joining Fate's Warning.
Yeah, he's had the studio for a long, long time.
He said 27 years. So
yeah, great guy, a lot of fun. I never interviewed him before, never met him, never spoke to him, but just a wealth of great stories.
And how did you hear? How did we get this interview?
Oh, thank you, my friend. We owe a huge thanks to Ryan Todd. Ryan, thank you so much. Ryan is a listener of this podcast, a viewer of this podcast, and he reached out to me and said, hey, you guys should get Mark Zonder on the podcast. And I said, that would be wonderful, except I don't know how to get a hold of him. And Ryan said, I can probably hook you up if you're interested. I said, yes. It turns out that Ryan is a videographer who is responsible for putting together the A through Z videos for the album A through Z, self-titled debut album. If you go to metalbladerecords.com, all of the videos are available there, and they're really well done. They're really cool. And we talk a bit about that with Mark today. But yes, a huge shout to Ryan Todd for making this happen today. And thank you.
Yeah, that was super cool how that magically fell in your lap. So
yeah, sometimes things happen,
Yeah, I think it's metalblade.com.
Metalblade.com. You're right. I stand corrected. Metalblade.com is where you can find the A through Z videos by Ryan Todd.
If you like Fate's Warning and you like Mark Zonder and you like Ray Alder and you like really badass musicianship and you love songs that have hooks in them, you cannot lose with this A through Z. I was pleasantly surprised because the description might go, oh, that sounds like, insert description. No, man, give music a chance.
Yeah.
Give all music a chance. Yeah.
I tried to put a description on it, and Mark actually thought I was pretty
you
well.
you were spot on. I didn't notice. I didn't have anything to add to that.
Yeah, it's commercial yet sophisticated is the way I like to describe it. So it's hooky, but if you're paying attention to the playing, if you're a musician yourself, you'll obviously recognize all the skill that's going into it. And I think that's a skill itself when you're an accomplished player like that and you're capable of overplaying. It's a skill to sort of rein it in and play for the song, as they say.
To know when to know when to add space instead of just fill it up with a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
That's professional.
Yeah.
That means you care about the song. That means you're playing the song and you're just not showing off on your instrument.
Right. So with a big thanks to Ryan Todd, we appreciate you today on the Talk Louder podcast, Mark Zonder. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Dave. I'm the guy you've been communicating with. I don't know if you've ever met Jason. Jason sings for Watchtower. That's a band I'm sure you're familiar with.
We've never met, but I know the name and the band and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. I don't remember meeting.
No, we never met.
Yeah.
Same circles.
Absolutely.
Me and Ray did shows together when we were teenagers. And then it just goes on from there. I've hung out many times with Fate's people and such. So yeah.
No, absolutely. It's that same circle.
Yeah.
We're all connected somehow. So we have, as Jason said, we just kind of bounce around and have a conversation. Obviously, we want to get into some of your history, but let's start with the current. As far as I know, the most recent thing you have available that's out is the A to Z record. Is that correct?
Technically, that came out August of a year ago, or a year and a couple months ago, or whatever it's been. That is the latest thing that's out. What's coming out is May 5th is the Warlord record that's coming out on High Roller. And then right as we're speaking right now, A through Z album 2 is basically, waiting for Ray for one more song. But he says he'll have it this week. Everybody else has recorded all their album parts. It's all ready to go. The same guy, Simone's going to mix it. And it should be done soon, but we know how that is. And the label's going to take X amount of time and the vinyl's going to take 9 months, and you know how it goes. But those are the two things that will be coming out. But the last thing that is physically out is the A through Z record.
A through Z, not A to Z. Okay, A through Z. So
you can call it anything you want. Everybody's called it anything. Just it doesn't. We're kind of open. We're open for interpretation.
Well, I've been listening to the album that's currently available, and I love what you're doing there. I was going to ask you, what was your aim musically with A through Z as opposed to maybe other things you've been involved in?
Well, there was another band that I had back in 2007 called Slavier with Greg Anaya and Wayne Finley. It's the same principle as what this was. And what it is I have a million drum ideas. Instead of me sitting around waiting for a guitar player, to choke out a riff or whatever, something I might not even like, I kind of went the other way, and I have all these different ideas that I record, and I gave it, actually Wayne was doing it back then, but it was Viv this time around on that record, and let guys write the stuff, that might be a little crazy or a little too active to try to shove into one of their parts. And it takes a special kind of person to take, a lot of musicians, especially guitar players, they can play and they can write and stuff like that. But when you give them something, kind of sets the mode, sets the mood, sets the whole vibe for them. A lot of guys love it. And I played with a lot of guys trying to do this. Some guys just don't get it because they got stuck in their own mind. Okay, I got this riff and I got to get it out. So my whole thing was just writing songs around the drums because I wanted to get a lot of these patterns and stuff that I know I wouldn't be able to get into other songs. And the real truth of the matter on A through Z, like I say, it's beer commercials, car commercials, and Cobra Kai.
I love how you cut to the chase on that. When I started reading the literary on it, and right out of the bag, you're describing what you have this sort of like video in your head, this cartoon drawing, this sketch of what you want it to sound and almost look like visually.
Absolutely. And what's funny is we've never met per se. I'm sure you've heard plenty of rumors. I'm about as straight up as it gets, and I can take it straight up. I'm not into disappearing for 3 months. I'm not into, hey man, that's great, man. I love it. I'll get right on it. And then disappear for 3 months. I'm just straight up. So when it comes to music, it's like, this is what I want to do. You know, not a big fan of like overly playing in this whole progressive world where there's not really, I don't want to say a future, but kind of done that for a lot of years. I know the ins and the outs. I know the goods and the bad.
Yep.
My favorite bands of all time are just kind of what I described. You know, yes, you can have huge hooks, but you guys can play underneath it and get cute and kind of crazy and a little progressive. And especially the second record is a little more, it's a little heavier. There are times where 8 bars go by, there's no singing and there's no lead. It's just establishing a pulse, which, you know, some people frown. It's like, well, what are we doing? We, you know, let's get to the chorus. Let's get to the chorus. There's plenty of that. And that's the one thing I told Ray with A through Z. I said, dude, do whatever you want. It's actually, and everybody in the band, this was my philosophy. Do whatever you want, be overly creative, but we got to have the gigantic hook. It's got to be a hook. So when we put the music together, you know, verse, chorus, bridge, whatever, we purposely kept that in mind. And then with Ray on that, especially that first record, he really took that to heart. And it's, you know, I'm kind of picturing this as an 80s kind of style band, you know, and that philosophy ran through everything else. The album cover, I had Hugh Syme do it. Yes, it cost me a fortune out of my pocket. But I didn't want to just, hey, tell my daughter to do the album cover, you know, or I didn't want to do something really cheap. We went full out, you know, because if people are going to be buying it, it's that old school kind of thing. You know, if not, I could just do everything digitally, go to my website and be done. But I'm not into that. And I know there's a lot of people that aren't into that. So, and then it even came down to the videos. It's like, okay, well, you know, we have a small budget and that's cool, but you know, we're going to do a video for every song come hell or high water. And I was lucky enough to find a guy who edits really cheap and is really good. And we did a song for we did a video for every song.
I watched 3 or 4 of them and they were fun to watch. Is that your son singing on Runaway? Who is that kid?
No, that's not my kid.
Ryan Todd, right? Yeah. So
exactly.
Ryan Todd is the guy that put me in touch with Mark to make this interview happen.
The kid is your friend? The kid is Ryan Todd?
It's Ryan Todd's the adult, and both of his kids are in it. He just became a fan friend, and as you guys all know in bands, there's certain people that are like just get closer to you because they're just more on your level, whatever, you know, and you know they're not just overly fanboying you, and there's actually something there. We're talking about sports or whatever, okay? And he came to me one day. Well, we had that idea of, okay, we're going to do the video for Runaway. Let's get people to send in clips. Basically, that translates to, we don't have a budget, so we need some help. Okay, people sending your free stuff. Turn the camera, turn your phone. Anyways, Ryan sent in a lot of that stuff. You know, that's him and, you know, with this kid. And there's all these little subtle things, you know, you see the fates warning stuff. So when that was done, he came to me, he said, hey man, he goes, do you mind if I take a shot at doing a video for the last song, which is Sometimes? And I thought, hey, go to it. I mean, that's great, you know, and that's where that video came from.
Wow. Yeah.
And as much as that little kid that you see in the one video, there's that other kid that's like 6'5". He's like 13 years old. The football scene.
Yeah.
Ryan is the short dude. I thought Ryan was the tall guy, you know, and I'm thinking, and then and I said, oh, did he really go and play at Texas? And he goes, Mark, he's 13. I go, oh my gosh, you got your hands full with that. But no, he's a great guy. And again, it was just important to get video content out there. I mean, obviously I come from the period back where you dump your record on the label and you say, hey, knock yourselves out, tell us what we can do. Now it's a whole different ballgame. And this is kind of the first thing I've done in this new generation where, you know, we shot I think I shot myself like 30 videos that are 2-3 minutes long of just me talking about like, hey, here in the studio, how I brought Philip Bynum in, what's your favorite gig, blah, blah. You know, it's all about that content and keeping it roll. So when I started this, my whole idea was, you know, album, videos, touring, interviews, and do the cycle. And I told everybody that this is not a project, okay? My kids are now 17. You know, I always felt guilty about going on the road, you know, when they were growing up. I have twins. And now that they're 17, it's like, it's time to go, you know? And so that was the whole idea, was we're going to do this, old school kind of thing,
The videos are really well done. I encourage our listeners and viewers to check them out. I saw them on metalblade.com. I don't know if you can find them elsewhere, but I saw them on metalblade.com. Of course, your album is on Metal Blade Records. And as you say, there's a video for every song, and they're really well done. And my hat's off to Ryan Todd, not only for putting me in touch with you, but he's obviously a creative videographer. And when he reached out to me, he knew that Jason and I were based in Texas, so he knew we would appreciate the Texas references in the one video. And he's right. I mean, we saw Whataburger, we saw the UT campus. And I commented that he was wearing some great shirts. I didn't know that was him at the time. I was like, whoever that guy is in the video's got some great shirts. There was a Lizzie Borden and a Riot and a
there's all kinds of subtle things going on. The other thing that he did that people don't know, and I'm not even sure if Ray picked up on it. There's that scene where on those reddish clay steps going up to it's a school. That supposedly is where Ray went to school.
Yeah.
High school,
I saw that in one of the behind the scenes clips. I think he
talked about that.
Yeah.
No, he was very cool. It didn't save us because we would have figured it out. But, after 10 videos, you kind of run out of ideas. It's like, okay, what the hell are we going to do here? What are we going to do? And when he came in, he said that. I go, oh man, go for it. You
mentioned the album. You mentioned the album cover, and I love the album cover.
Yeah,
it
came out awesome. Amazing.
And then I thought I read somewhere in your bio or your background info or whatever, and I never caught this, but symbolically the album cover represents A through Z because it's an apple being eaten by a zebra, and the artwork is so great. I mean, it's super colorful, super cool, very original. And you said Hugh Syme did that, and for those who don't know, Hugh is responsible for a lot of your favorite Rush album covers,
as well as like the last 17 Dream Theater, all those Megadeth records. It goes on and on and on and on and on. It was just that thing when I came down to it. At first, I started talking to people, and you just get crap. It's like, and I just made up my mind, the beginning of this project, if you're going to go, Mark, go. Don't kind of sort of go, don't go. So I've known you for a long time because I met him years ago with the Face Warning stuff, and we've kept in touch. And, the same thing with Terry Brown, just kept in touch with those guys. And he was the obvious choice. And he was very cool. He's great. He's great to work with. He did the second album cover as well. It's just one of those things. It has to be quality. And going along with that, I knew as much as this was going to be cool, I needed the mix of a lifetime. I didn't need a demo mix. So I sent it out to like 9 guys. I know enough people that I made contact with certain people. I sent it out to a guy that has won 9 Grammys. And I'm thinking to myself, oh boy, here we go, man. This is going to just sound amazing. And it sounded like crap. But I just kept looking and looking and looking until I found that guy, and that delivered that sound.
It sounds amazing.
Oh, thank you. And we're able to communicate too, because anytime you're working with somebody, they can be brilliant, but sometimes you have to communicate. Dude, that's not what we're seeing here. And Simone's great. He's that guy that'll get back to you like that. Mm-hmm. He was popping a mix every 6 hours, 8 hours or whatever.
Wow.
And we just go back and forth, and you ask him to fix something, and believe it or not, he would fix it. Some engineers would be like the old fake turn on the console, It was great. You find your team and you stay with it. That's why, Philip Bino's on this record. I always had that theory of Mark's playing, Philip's playing. I've known him for a long time, and he's just the only guy that I've ever met that can occupy half a stage, not move, and just captivate people. The guy is just unbelievable. And again, just pro to work with, communication. He's just a really good friend of mine for years.
Yeah.
And then you find those guys like Simone's going to be mixing it again, and you just try to go with the best people that you can find.
I was trying to, for the benefit of our listeners and viewers who may not have heard it, I was trying, and I hate to put things in a box and categorize, but let me see if I'm on target and whether or not, if I'm not, you can edit my my comment.
Make it a game.
I was thinking, yeah, I was thinking for the sake of trying to describe it to the uninitiated, kind of going back to what you said earlier, I hear some mainstream accessibility from like a band like Journey or Asia or something like that. But I also have this, I feel this underlying sense of sophistication that would come from like a Kansas or a Genesis or a Yes or something like that. Am I in the ballpark?
You just bought the ballpark. Yeah, no, I couldn't have said it better. Yes, absolutely. Because all those bands you mentioned, given the chance, can play like nobody's business.
Yeah.
But they rein it in, and you have that commercial quote hit song, but you've got this underlying play. It always goes back to, I always thought what gives you that stamp is when a cover band tries to play your stuff, and they sit there scratching their head. He goes, "This sounded really easy."
Yeah.
But I can't figure it out. Yeah, I brought the electronics into it, so it kind of had a little Genesis thing, Peter Gabriel at times.
Yeah.
I see a little Toto. I see at times a little Steely Dan from a drum point with the groove. That's the big thing that also was really important to me was there's a lot of crazy stuff, but if you strip it down, it's still just kick and snare. Kicks and snares on 2 and 4. And I actually did a couple of videos with showing a couple of those grooves, and Journey was famous for that. Steve Smith was famous for that. I don't think you just have to. I mean, AC/DC, greatest band ever. Great band. And it fits their style, but you don't have to necessarily play that, because if you don't have Angus Young and Bon Scott, I could be playing 2 and 4 all day, and I'll be wasting my time. That's a band thing. So I kind of just do what I do, and how I express myself, and what I hear groove wise and stuff like that. And that's kind of where it came from. But yes, you hit that on the head. And I thought that is kind of missing this day. I think it's a throwback with a modern approach, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
The other thing that I'm not sure if you guys picked up on that record that was very important, that is kind of like, if it's there, you don't notice it. But if I took it away, you'd go, "Oh, what happened?"
Yeah.
I noticed, the story goes really quickly. Phil Ehart and I are good friends. It's a long story about who's the most underrated drummer and whatever. He's a very funny guy. And I asked him at one point, I go, "Hey man, who finished second in the auditions?" Okay. Cause we're looking for a singer. This is when it first started. And he gave me a few guys, and I checked them out, and they're cool. And I looked, and the guy says, "Oh yeah, I sang in this Kansas album and that Kansas album." I go, "What do you mean?" And I looked at the album, the guys on the album. A lot of these bands, I really didn't know it because I'm not really tuned into it, but they bring in all these different singers to get the different texture instead of just having the lead singer. I mean, if you have Steve Walsh, why are you bringing in somebody else? It just adds a different texture. Yeah. So I brought in my buddy Robbie Wyckoff, who's a really highly sought after studio singer here in town. And he just, all that background kind of thing you hear, and a lot of that really high harmony stuff and just stacked in vocals, that's Robbie, which is kind of like the 6th guy in the band, or the 7th guy, or how many guys we have. But it just adds that flavor and that lushness. And that really goes back to that 70s and 80s kind of sound. Yeah. It's not being done today. No one's really doing it.
Yeah. The vocal layers, it's not like you're trying to make it sound like a choir or even Queen or even some Beatles tracks, but very lush. And I think it depends on the way that it's mixed. And not like Mutt Lange, where the Def Leppard thing, where it's just 1,000 tracks of those guys whispering the chorus,
Yeah.
I think that it's important to mention here that, back to your initial description of what you're trying to do with this A through Z project, you can just start with beer commercials, or even just Cobra Kai, where you think like, Survivor, Eye of the Tiger, or, the movie soundtrack hit song kind of a thing. And I get that as a starting point. As your small circle, you're making a bigger circle until there's no circle at all. And you've created this kind of thing where every song sort of has this idea. Ray's lyrics, his titles, did you have any influence at all on that, or did he literally do whatever he wanted?
My whole thing in this band, because obviously I played enough bands over the years, I kind of picked up on the you know, some I've been head of, some I haven't been head of. I picked up the good, the bad, and the indifferent. This is not 1980 where we need to pop out a 3-minute and 15-second hit song. I mean, I kind of wish it was that era, but we don't have to do that. We don't have someone breathing down your back. Okay.
Right.
Hey, man, you know, you're playing way too many notes there, Mark. Stop doing this, whatever. My whole thing with this band, and I told everybody, and I pushed them, do whatever you want. Do whatever you want, as long as it sounds good. You know, I'm not going to, no, as long as it sounds good. And I wanted everybody, do whatever you want. Do whatever you want. When it came to Ray, we sent him the music, I didn't tell him where I thought a verse was going to go. I didn't say, this is where I think the chorus is going to go. He sang in spots that I thought was going to be musical parts. He sang choruses where there should have been verses, or I thought, because, you know, hey, your chorus is always the high part, your verses. I let him go. Just do whatever you want. And that's where the magic happens. Because if it was my idea, it's going to be sterile because it's my, you know, unless you're Sting. Okay, there's a few guys that can do it, but that's why it's a band.
Right.
That's why when everybody doing their thing, you know, when the guitar player Jupe would come in with some kind of like a Neil Sean over the top kind of part was great, you know. And what you're going to hear on the second record is I've changed guitar player and keyboard players. Just couldn't work it out. It just wasn't going to happen. You know, I couldn't have my career just put on hold when guys disappear for 3 and 4 months with no communication whatsoever. So I have 2 guitar players, Nick Van Dyke from the band Redemption, who's been a good friend of mine for years, and the guy, believe it or not, who mixed the record, Simone Maloroni in Italy, is actually phenomenal guitar player. Ridiculous. Wow. Keyboard player is Jimmy Waldo from Alcatraz.
Yeah,
and
nice.
Whatchamacallit, what was that band? New England. Another good friend. So I kind of figured out, okay, you got to really surround yourself with friends. I told these guys, Nick is more of a rhythm player. So, you know, we wrote the songs, we put it together, it's cool. Bino, I pushed. I go, dude, where are all those high notes? I want to hear that high note. This 8 bars here is a musical section. We're going to groove, but it's kind of a bass thing. I don't want to hear like stupid, like bassing, but this is your spot, you know? And I pushed them more, do this, do that, you know, all those kind of things. And the same with Simone, and the guitar playing is mind blowing. I guarantee we'll be having this conversation down the road when you guys hear it, and you'll just go, "Oh my God!"
Nice.
You know, it's a little shred, and I'm not a big shred guy, but there's a time and a place. But it's that Gary Moore, Neil Sean, that thing where you can feel when you listen, you can feel his fingers bending the note. You can just feel it. I mean, it's incredible. Again, just go, man. Do whatever you want. Now, when it comes down to the mix, we'll see, well, you got a keyboard player playing this, and you got a guitar player playing this, and another guitar. We might have to make some adjustments to create some holes, but I wanted everybody's input.
Sure.
You know? Same thing with Ray. It's like, dude, here's the songs. You know, do whatever you want. And again, this was also the philosophy of, okay, we wrote the song, and here it is, but we can cut it, chop it, move it. You hear something different. You hear it 6 times, not 12 times, or whatever. We're good. This is not like, hey man, I wrote it this way, and this is the way.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I heard Ray's messages in just the way he writes a song with Fates, or the way I hear Ray Alder the way that I know Ray Alder on even this project. Not saying that he sounds the same all the time. That's not the message I'm saying. I'm getting the messages of his lyrics, his choruses, and his stories, and that he's actually, there's messages to be had. There's this positive and this interesting look at life as you walk through it in these songs. And I'm admitting I've only heard about 4 songs from this record, and obviously it's the record you have currently out that we didn't know was a year old. But complimenting Ray on just him being able to be Ray with the avenue and the open door that you gave him, that's fantastic. Interesting question, something you just brought up. You can edit the song if he feels like the chorus needs to be longer, or there's a bridge I want to do here, da-da-da-da-da. Did you have to do that? And did Ray have any requests for you guys to do any?
Are you talking about like the first album or the second album?
The one that we've heard. The one that we've heard.
As I can remember, here's one that's going to blow a lot of people's minds. what you hear on that record is what we got as demos.
Yeah.
He just,
I believe that. I believe it.
Which is a totally 180-degree turn from where I come from. We bang out the song, we got a demo. I'm going to spend a bunch of time. I'm going to listen to it. Okay, that fill, that was a placeholder. Okay, come up with something better. Okay, cool. Okay, we got the basic demo. Then when I go to record the record, I take it up another time, and I'll look at every little thing and really just push things to the envelope and probably bring them back. But some of the, not wacky, but some of the really cool, adding the little space here. Hey, this fill, come up with something more original because this is really flat kind of stuff. So I like to really, really do it. But Ray, that was what you hear is kind of what you got. And that was it. I don't think on that first record we changed, and it's been a while, obviously.
Right.
I don't remember any major changes per se. No, it was pretty much it. And truthfully, and obviously I played in the band with Ray for 15 years, but I still stand by this myself. I think that A through Z record is the best thing he's ever done.
Wow.
And the reason I say that, it's not like all of a sudden he raised his game. I think it's more of a fact, and maybe this is the one that I like the most, maybe because I played in the band, but that, and I came to Ray because I remember when we were on the bus and stuff like that, and he talked about how he grew up on, Peaches and Herb and funk and soul and R&B and commercial style stuff. And this is probably the first thing that he's really had a chance to do that just gives him that thing. He said it was easier in the respect of once he kind of got something, he could weave it through the song instead of the multiple different changes. And Fates obviously has a lot more changes and different things happening. But I think he really, I remember him talking about it, how he just enjoyed the fact of, I get it. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, that kind of thing. So, and I think he's really suited for that. And what really came through, and one of the things I always liked about Ray, even in Fates, as wacky as it was, he knows where to kind of try to find the pocket. And, a lot of singers don't, as much as everybody loves John Arch, I don't think John Arch was concentrating on the pocket and where the groove really was to lock that vocal to the groove. And to me, that's always a big thing, obviously being a drummer. And Ray really knows how to do that. And he really, when you listen to those songs, you could just put up the drums and the vocals and it makes sense. Kind of thing. You don't need the music. You can hear how he's kind of, doing his thing to where the drums sit. So
that's kind of that's a bass player thing too, to be able to feel if you need to be down, or if you need to, on the downbeat, or if you need to slide, or, the way jazz and blues works, the way the notes bend, and there's a reason why you're starting on the and of or late on purpose. It's because of where you're going to end up.
Yep. Absolutely.
And people don't, we're getting too deep here to talk about that. But I feel like the melodies that he's singing have continuity. You remember them from the first time. And so that's the kind of stuff that you're looking for. It's really great that he just got it the first time and understood exactly what you wanted, because your vision has come through easy for you just by calling your friends.
Well,
go figure.
Yeah, actually, on that first album there, though, Jupe and Viv, I didn't know them from Adam. When I had the whole idea of doing this thing, I first got in touch with Matt Guillory, thinking, hey, would you want to do something like this? And he said he was too busy, which we all know in the industry means, Mark, you don't have any money, so move on. So he turned me on to Viv, the keyboard player in France, and I got in touch with him. The first half an hour was about how when Viv was in high school, he was listening to Chroma Key that I did with Kevin Moore and Fates Warning and this, that, and the other. So I thought, okay, cool. We got a guy who at least kind of understands me and kind of gets where I'm coming from. And then we just started putting the songs together, and it rolled from there, and it worked out. Again, I thought that record, it was at the beginning, of A through Z. I kind of look at it like a franchise, and it's more about the brand. It's more about when people come to see the band, it'll be about the music, not like, oh man, I got to go check out that guitar player. It's not like, one of those kind of, it's not like going to see Yngwie. Yngwie could be up there with the curtain and you'd still go. It's not that so much. It's more of the band. It's the music, like most bands that I've ever played in, it's about the music.
Yeah. As far as not to just stay in a rut here, but I feel like, when you think about when Rush learned how to straddle the line of, are we a prog band, or do we want to be on the radio, and how do we play crazy shit but still be on the radio and have this pop sensibility about being, oh, we're a prog band and we're going to lose. No, you're not going to lose any fans. And they figured it out on Moving Pictures and just keep going. Grace Under Pressure. And they really just, there was no circle anymore. Like I said, you have this thing and it's yours and blah, blah, blah. And then you grow up. You just fucking grow up. And then it turns into this, you're on the ocean, and you, as far as you can see, you can sail wherever and whichever direction you want, and it feels good and it's happy. I feel like there's a lot of that going on with this music, that you coming up with the circle I keep referring to as the idea to have no circle at all.
Well, yeah, I spent a lot of years in a band that, like the saying goes, critical acclaim is overrated.
Boy, don't I know it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like, that's cool and that's great. And like I used to say in my clinics all the time, I ask people, what do you think the greatest drum riff of all time is? And I would start playing 4 quarter notes on the kick. I go, everybody gets that. My mom gets that. Does my mom get Dave Weckl as much as I think Weckl's really cool and it's like really cool? No. You gotta, this band was set up for the fans, like I said, and people, I took a lot of crap for it. It's like, do I want to play little clubs? No. Do I want to play mid-size arenas? Mid-size theaters? No. If we can get to the big thing, isn't that what everybody wants? I guess unless you're Eddie Vedder, who he wants to just play, in his, like he doesn't want to be famous. But isn't the point of this to be successful so we don't have to struggle to make a second record? We don't have to struggle, we have to cancel the tour because God knows we can't afford the gas. Isn't the whole idea, do what you love, and believe me, we're doing what we love, but to get it out there and promote it and sell it and do everything you can, do every interview you can, do everything and just do it. I'm 65 years old and I still feel like I'm, 15 with that kind of thing, but hopefully a little more experience and knowledge behind it. But isn't that what you're supposed to be doing? That's what I kind of want to do.
Well, I love that you're brutally honest about your vision for this, because a lot of people aren't. They hide behind the artistic integrity and this and that, and as you said earlier, the critical acclaim or whatever. But I don't think anybody would doubt that you've got that already. You've had it for decades, and I think the fact that you're at a point where you're comfortable saying, "Hey, what I really want to do is what you just described, reach as many people as possible, not have to worry about creating a second album. I want this thing to be popular and respected all at the same time." And I love that, a lot of people tend to hide behind, oh, it's all about the integrity of the music and especially a guy like you who's so highly regarded as it relates to your ability. People look to you as like this really amazing technical drummer. And I love the fact that you're willing to say, hey man, I'm just, at the end of the day, I might play a little more sophisticated, but what I'm really trying to do is get a song stuck in your head. That's what I'm really trying to do.
Absolutely. Well, I can go back to my days with Fate's Warning and, Through Different Eyes, Eye to Eye, songs like 11th Hour that were in Point of View that were easily picked up by the it was sophisticated, but it was right in there and it was catchy and it was on the radio at a time. I would just remember the look on the audience face and what would happen when that was going on compared to when we play something in 7/8, 7/8, 6/4, 2/9. I had to have a calculator next to me half the time to figure out what was going on. And it's hard. It's hard. It's hard. It's sometimes it's difficult to do that. And you kind of ask yourself, well, why are we doing this? Because we're losing a lot of people. You know, we're losing them. And I'll never forget when Parallels came out, and we do the video to Eye, and the director Mark Rezica had just got done with like Skid Row's big video. So I'm like, oh, this is the hot guy, you know, pouring water on the floor to make.
I must interrupt. I have made videos with Mark Rezica.
There you go.
Yep.
Did he put water on the floor?
He was the hot name. Did he what?
Put water on the floor, you know, because it gives you that.
Oh no, we didn't do that.
Oh yeah, we made sure we didn't.
I know what you're talking about, though. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was him, and of course, you know, here's Fates Warning, this sophisticated band, and blah 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 blah. They bring a chick into it, smoking looking chick, mind you, a model. And we're all going, what the hell is she doing in the song? And it's like, but like I think someone said, all of a sudden, and we're not the first band to do this. All of a sudden, chicks are showing up to the gig. It's like, wait a minute, this is different. Now, was this Warrant or Poison? No. But we used to be all dudes, like just dude fest. It was a sausage fest. I mean, it was crazy. And all of a sudden, Eye to Eye's on the radio, you know, and it's, you know, there's Ray looking all seductive in his leather jacket and the hair and the light coming from over here, and they're filming them, and they got the chick, you know, grasping at these. I don't know what the hell it was.
We made a video with Mark Rezica, and he, not knowing what he was getting from us yet, he edited out all the footage with all the women in it.
Really?
So he took the women out. Yeah.
Oh, he definitely brought it in, because let's face it, up to that point, there's never a Fates Warning video. I don't, you know, even like Through Different Eyes that we shot at the Brooklyn Naval Yard, Through Different Eyes, kind of got that chick thing. You could work it in there if you wanted to. No. It was an old man.
Wow. Yeah. Well,
old man on a conveyor belt. You know?
But when to do that, when to bring in the sexuality, or even just a vision of something, can trigger something in the mind's eye and change your audience overnight. Especially if it's going to be a song like that that's going to be on the radio. Not even technically or mentally planned out to be on the radio. Any kind of song can at least gain some kind of footprint, especially in the video age.
I was going to say that's back then. That was a different thing. That was you know. But didn't you love it? You know, spending $80,000 to $100,000 to take one shot on MTV. Come on, man!
I couldn't believe it when I saw that budget, man. I was like, you just did what? I signed off on this. What?
Exactly. We're sitting there. Did you have the whole thing with the two wardrobe girls and then the makeup and the whole nine?
Of course.
It's like,
of course.
This, right?
And we were just a bunch of punk ass kids from Texas. We'd never seen any fucking thing like that. We're going, what? Sitting in a makeup chair, and there's catering everywhere, and there's people running around. It's like, wow, this is crazy.
But you remember, you know how many bands spent a big chunk of money for that one hopeful shot on MTV, and then you wind up on Headbangers Ball, maybe if you're lucky.
Yeah.
And then it's just done. Because remember, back then there was no video going around, you know, I mean, internet, you know, so it's not, oh, we're going to get 80 million hits, you know. No, it was like, talk about a gamble.
You had to be watching it. You had to be watching Headbangers Ball in real time at midnight on Saturday night or whatever it was.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that was a ritual, and I missed the ritual. I missed the whole,
oh yeah.
Hey, it's Friday night and we're going to have a get together because the blah blah video's coming on, and we got to hit record at the right time or whatever it is. I missed that shit because it kind of brought people, it's like camping out for tickets. It's like it's that standing in line at the record store. It's the whole
it's the 4 o'clock in the morning showing up at the Oakland Coliseum.
Right. Yeah. Let's talk a minute about I wanted to get into Fates Warning a little bit, obviously. You joined the band at a very pivotal time, just in time for Perfect Symmetry, and then followed by Parallels. And at that time, as you said, you were starting to gain some traction in terms of mainstream acceptance, that sort of thing. And it was kind of a hot time for bands like Queensryche and Dream Theater at the same time. Queensryche, of course, you know, scaled the mountain, and Dream Theater wasn't too far behind. Why do you think that Fates Warning wasn't in that same boat as far as getting to the level that, like, of a Queensryche?
That's probably the most simple question to answer that you're going to ever ask anybody. And I don't say this with a glass half empty, and I don't say it negatively, and I'll explain when I get done. It's a major label, okay? They were on major labels, okay? God bless Brian Slagle, gave me a career basically back in the Warlord days, and moved forward. The guy is straight up as you get, honest as the day is long. You get every penny that you're owed, all that. Unfortunately, Fate's Warning wasn't in the position of being with a major label. And there was a brush with the major label when Metal Blade had the whole thing with Warner Brothers, and they took the Goo Goo Dolls and not Fate's Warning. But it would be hard pressed to find any music person that knows anything about anything that wouldn't tell you why Parallels wasn't the record that just broke a band wide open.
Yeah.
I mean, that record, again, it's not A through Z, but it has that prog thing going on. There's definitely the prog thing. Leave the past behind. There's some crazy stuff, but it all grooved and it was cool. Eye to Eye, big time hit. That's a number one hit. Point of View, great song, right in that kind of commercial, because you got to remember, you're talking in an era of getting on the radio, and it did. You have 11th Hour, which is your ballad, heavy song kind of thing. The funny part of it is when this thing started to roll, there's a song on there called We Only Say Goodbye. And we wrote that at the very, very, very end of that whole recording session there. And that's when REM was really big. That song, That's Me in the Corner, or whatever that was.
Mm-hmm.
They were really big then. And so that song right there, We Only Say Goodbye, it's about as simple as Fate's Warning ever got. And it's a great song. What they did, they were getting ready to launch this thing. They took Jimbo Barton, who just got done doing all the Queensryche stuff. They supposedly put him in a room with like 12 tambourines and 14 background singers. And he took We Only Say Goodbye and made it kind of like a Def Leppard, super commercial, perfect hit song. The perfect thing to follow up Eye to Eye. But before that had a chance to go, the whole thing kind of collapsed. And then it just wound up being a B-side on one of these re-releases of whatever and whoever. But we were close. The truth being, a lot of bands were close. I mean, bands have spent, $500,000 and have the record shelved, before it even comes out.
Yeah.
I know kids these days have no idea of how that would even be possible or working, but back then it was a different ballgame, and money was flying, and every label had to have a band that was like this, that, and the other. But no, I think to answer your question, that is a combination of major label and possibly management. Yeah. But I would say more on the major label part, because you're going to tell me that if Queensryche didn't have Eye to Eye, that wouldn't have exploded for them.
Sure. Yeah. That's a fair point. Yeah.
Yeah. And Dream Theater's a little bit of a different animal, because they did it more of a pull me under and then just beat it to death and played and recorded. And then kind of a little the Metallica thing where it's kind of like a groundswell per se. I don't think Dream Theater had the massive AM radio hit kind of thing. Pull Me Under got them going, but I think they just worked it so hard. They got their quote following. But yeah, Queensryche is the one, probably Silent Lucidity, that kicked the jar open and really made it go.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. But I don't know.
I feel like the band Extreme, another good example. The band Extreme, they got this funk rock, and they're a lot of fun, party rock, and then they have More Than Words. And More Than Words is like this massive overnight sensation.
Yep.
And people just want to buy the single because they don't understand the rest of the record is this kind of butt rock, funky, cool, amazing band. Solid as a fucking rock.
Oh, yeah. But I bet you they had chicks going.
People want More Than Words.
I know, but I bet you they had chicks going to their shows.
They sure did. Right. I just got off a boat with those guys.
Yeah, but another band that comes to mind, right in that same thing, is Mr. Big. You have Eric Martin, great singer.
Yep.
We all know Billy Sheehan. We all know Paul Gilbert. Pat Torpey was unbelievable drummer, even though in that band he was, kind of a little laid back. He was an animal. He was a great drummer. And wasn't it that one song that they had? Didn't they have one big song?
Yeah.
I can't even think of the song right now.
But Eric Martin can sing it. There ain't no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you joined the band, I want to jump ahead a little bit. So you're in the band for a while, and then as half the rhythm section, you lose your bass player, and Joey Vera steps in. And I also wanted to ask, so this question is twofold. What kind of adjustment did you have to make to start working with Joey? And then the thing that I thought was interesting was I'm reading this book, Destination Onward. This is a fantastic read. I really enjoyed this. And what I wanted to ask you about, besides adjusting and establishing chemistry with Joey Vera, you guys also did A Pleasant Shade of Gray, 53-minute song. You played it in its entirety in concert. To me, that sounds like, I mean, wow. So do you like go to the restroom before the show starts, before the song starts, or what? Tell me about working with Vera, and then what kind of preparation or mental space you had to get into to play a 53-minute song live every night.
A couple things. Number one, and I'm sure I'll get the hate mail for this one. Well, probably not. I don't follow the bass player. I want the bass player to follow me. If he wants to, he doesn't have to. But I'm following more of the guitar line, and I'm playing my layered rhythms per se or whatever to set things up from the guitar player kind of thing of where the music is going. I'm trying to add a foundation that everybody can get on top of and add their things kind of to me. I've never, even since I was 7 years old playing in bands, I never really, not that I didn't pay attention to the bass player, but it was always looking more for the melody of the song, you know, and then looking at it as like, okay, here's the structure. Well, okay, the verse is cool. When we come to the second verse, you really need to drop it out, make it more exciting, and then kick it back in kind of thing. I'm thinking more in those terms than what's the bass player playing. Because usually the bass player, you know, as a general rule, is going to play off the guitar player. I mean, he's not going to be the guy that's like kind of leading the charge and stuff like that. So I know it sounds really egotistical or whatever you want to call it, but it's always been that way. I'm always playing kind of for the guitar and for the song. The bass is more of, I always kind of looked at the bass that brings everybody not necessarily together, but can really make things punch, can really make things float. It's more of a, hard to describe, but it's just, it's you know, unless you're playing in some crazy ass jazz band or crazy funk band where the bass player is just slapping the living daylights out of it, and then you're going to play some funky groove over the top. You know, in my experience in bands, the bass player is more looking for, hey, what's the drummer doing and what can I do at what point to accent with him and play with him and counter him and go back and forth. But both guys are great guys. Bones, you know, Joe Tobias, I still talk to him, not every day, but I talk to him all the time. Great guy. You know, we have the love of sports in common as well. He was the guy, you know, that I'd always be with on tour kind of thing, as far as it goes. Known Joey for a long time. He's in and out of my studio with, you know, who was he with? Tribe of Gypsies? Or Joey had like different band, or even when Joey did the solo record, you know, he was in my studio. I've known him forever. Great guy, super guy, great player. But no, that adjustment, there's really no adjustment. I was more playing to what Jim was doing. You know, that's really the truth. It was what Jim was playing. It wasn't what Frank was playing. It was what Jim was playing in the rhythmic, you know, kind of things. Is kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. What about the 53-minute Pleasant Shade of Gray?
Well, here's the funny part. Back then, we didn't have computers, so I had a rack about this tall. And it had the samplers in it, it had the sequencers in it, it had this, it had that, because everything we were playing to was to a click. I mean, I was a big click guy from the beginning, but that one had to be. So we're putting this record together. I go out to New Hampshire to Jim's house, and we're putting it together, and I had this like $200 rolling little drum machine that I'm using to trigger, and we're programming little stuff, and it's very archaic. This is not, hey, I got a computer, I hit a button, and we're good. So we're doing this, we're spending hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, and it's time for dinner. Well, guess who gets up and steps on the power cord? Whole thing goes down. nothing saved. We have to start over.
Oh,
So that's the beginning of that. When we went to play it live, it was interesting. We never really, knock on wood, I don't think we ever had a major problem. Needless to say, if a piece malfunctioned or something happened, that could cause a problem. But if you watch, and I have it on my own YouTube channel, when we were doing the Pleasant Shade of video, the original plan was to have this guy shoot all the stuff, and it didn't work out, and whatever happened or whatever, but they didn't have any film of me. So Takumi, our guitar tech, took a camera and stuck it like right here from the whole, for the whole show. So you'll see on my website, I have all kinds of videos of that going on. And you'll see the rack in the background. It went down pretty smooth. You just kind of had to know what you're doing. It's like, okay, start this song. Okay, I'm getting the click. I hear that little sample going off. Okay, here because we did it to the T. It's not like we did the stripped down version, because we obviously had the sounds, because we came up with them. And it was cool. It was a touch nerve-wracking. I mean, this day and age, it would be so easy, because it'd all just be in a computer. You have all your little sample and pre-stuff over here. You wouldn't have to rely on it. Oh, I had to reboot during the show like 3 times, like put in the new. I'm using the little floppies. It wasn't the day of like, oh, big ass hard drive, and I got a backup system, so if this goes down, that one will kick in. Oh no, it was a little nerve-wracking. The worst is when you get to Europe and you're not sure how the power situation is going to work.
Right.
It was. Like I said, we did it then. I'll never forget getting home and having 2 forklift blades that had went through my rack, and they said, "Oh, nothing happened." It's like took out a piece of gear and you could see the rack. And, shock loaded the whole 9, weighed 7,000 pounds, forklift blade right through.
oh man.
But no, I liked playing that. It was quite the accomplishment once we got it done.
Yeah.
I thought that was myself. Is it an AM radio hit? No. Is it brilliant from start to finish? Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just thought the parts were great. We had we kind of touched on a little Pink Floyd thing with sound effects at times and different things. And, Bill Matoyer, a good friend of ours, the engineer from Metal Blade, there's a thing that we sampled from him screaming into something that's in the back that probably we're the only people that really got it per se, but there's like all kinds of little hidden things in there that were really cool, and the truth is, bands at our level were not doing that. There's no way.
Yeah.
You can't tell me there's anything that Queensryche did that even comes close to that, as far as at that point in time, on how intricate it was and how, it had to be on. There was no jamming there.
Yeah, that's why I asked. I mean, it seems like at that time, especially, and maybe you could even argue today, it's almost unprecedented. And if it's happened since, it's still a rarity. I don't care what you say. People don't go to a concert to watch a 53-minute song from start to finish.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive. So you were with Fates Warning for 15 years, and in that time, you've obviously had some success, especially with the first 2 records that you were on. But you were there 15 years. So in your 15-year run with Fates Warning, what album would you say is the one that's underappreciated? Okay,
underappreciated in a massive sense would obviously be Parallels, because that was the one that was launched for the world. Now, when you start talking about underappreciated with prog fans per se, I would say Pleasant Shade of Grey, just because you want prog, there you go.
That's fair.
But it's prog with a hard rock metal grind to it. Like it's like there's some things that that prog bands would never play. They would never play that kind of slow plot. Well, I guess Sabbath would. I take that back. But that kind of open air kind of thing. So I just thought that record kind of if you have to say, well, what's Fates Warning like? Well, go listen to that, and that kind of covers the whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, the last song in that record just kicks my ass every time. It's just that plodding, slow kind of thing, but it's building and it's building, but it's still restraint. It's not like all of a sudden we kick into double time and we're jamming. It stays in that. It's like the pent up frustration or whatever. It's I don't know. I thought it was brilliant.
You guys obviously have established a very loyal cult following, if you will. Having said that, is there a future for Fates Warning? Because you obviously have an audience out there that'll never go away. Where are you and the rest of the guys in terms of possibly communicating or possibly doing something moving forward?
Well, the story when I left the band, just so everybody's really clear on it. Like I said, I've been in the band 15 years, given everything I had, rehearsed at my place, lived at my place, recorded at my place, just given everything that I possibly could to the band, because that's what I am. If I'm going to be into it, I'm going to be into it. Came to 15-year period. I was getting married. We were talking about having a family. And Fates Warning wasn't the kind of band like when you read in the Geddy Lee book, well, yeah, we have next year planned out, and this is what we're going to, no. This was like, hey, guys, we're going out on tour in 2 weeks. Say what? Hey, we just, which is, I'm sure that happens with a lot of bands, but when you're in the band 15 years, I have the whole studio business going that I've had, for 27 years now. It was tough. It was just tough, especially being married. And also part of it, just brutally honest, we'd been doing this number, and then we were doing this number. Yeah. And for the last 5 years, 6 years, playing the same places, same people, which is fine, but it wasn't kind of where I wanted to go. And it's not like I left because, I'm going to go join these other 6 bands. It was just, I didn't see it going anywhere. And what it required, and this is why Bones left, and this is why Frank left, that you couldn't sustain kind of, I don't want to say normal lives, but that kind of situation is great when you're either one calling the shots, because then you get to determine what's happening, or you're 19, 20, 22, where you have no responsibilities and it's good to go. So, but I came to Jim just plain as day and said, hey, here's the story. I think what you, and this is after Pleasant Shade of Grey, I said, I think you, me, and Ray have a great formula. I don't want to kill the golden goose, but I really just can't do the kind of touring stuff. I'd like to work something out where I'm not a part of the band. You can pay me whatever you think it's fair. It's not really about the money, because I love the recording process. That recording process I just love. Completely professional and just great. Just to see that come to life is really something. And I said, whatever you want to work out, I'm game. It doesn't matter. Okay, you don't want to pay me, that's cool. We'll do it anyways. I said, no, if you're not gonna, we really need a guy who's gonna, we need a guy who's gonna play the shows and record the records.
Yeah.
It's interesting because this day and age, and even back then, there's a gazillion bands that had other guys playing on records, especially like the original guy. It's not like I wasn't the original guy for that period. It wasn't like, I'd only been there 6 months or something like that. I'd been there 15 years. There was a sound. I definitely think you could look at a Fates Warning catalog and go, that era, and that era.
Yeah.
Very distinctly.
But you even said yourself, your daughters are at an age now where you could probably go out for a while and do some touring. You do have this built-in audience, in my opinion. I think time has been gracious to the legacy of Fates Warning. Like, it wouldn't matter what the current trends are in music today. That goes right out the window. We're talking about Fates Warning. So having said all of that, is there any future of, doing something, or because your reasons that you explained were sort of based on circumstances at the time?
No, absolutely. And it's interesting, obviously I talked to Ray, obviously.
Yeah.
I played on Jim's solo record with John Arch. He called me and had me play in a couple things. It's kind of up to them. It's not up to me to go, hey man, let's put the band back together. We're number 6 in Japan. I mean, it's like, it's not really my position. I've been gone a long time. It's kind of the same questions when I first started A through Z, and I kind of went, hey, whatever they're doing, that's their business. When I first called Ray to see if he was interested, if he didn't want to do it because he thought he had a conflict of interest, that was on his plate. I just asked him. He could have said yes, no, go to hell, and there it is. It's just real. There it is. So when I left, it was cool. There was no hard feelings or any of that or this, that, and the other. I mean, actually think I saw him one time at the Whiskey here. Actually I went out there with Nick Van Dyke, but it's no, there's no, nobody stole anything, nobody raped anybody's girlfriend, nobody, there's attitudes, egos on everybody's side, there's personalities on everybody's side, but there was no like defining moment. Hey man, I just can't get over that, time that this happened. It's not, that's band stuff, that's all it is. And just everybody had probably different visions. The other thing too is I was 10 years older than everybody else. So there's a little bit of a different, when I first joined, as we move forward, just your life experience and where you'd been and what you were starting to experience compared to what some other guy had already experienced 10 times, 10 years older. Yeah. There was a little bit of a, I don't want to say generation gap, but there was a little bit of a little bit, nothing to get concerned about. Sure. But again, I've always felt, as long as you communicate, you're polite and you're respectful, like I've always said, you can call me an asshole, but you can't call me a liar. So, you might not like what I'm saying, right, but I'll never be in politics, put it that way. So,
Yeah. That's pretty good notes to write down, I think, to recall. You're a lifer. You've been doing this since you were a kid. I liked reading in Destination Onward, the Fates Warning book, how in the old Metal Blade days, in the early days, you were the guy that had the magic snare drum, and you would roll around and help people's albums not suck. Because if the drums suck, your album kind of sucks.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it was interesting because Brian was doing a different thing. He was kind of like giving a lot of young bands a chance. Sure. He was kind of doing it more, it seemed like, on volume than just sheer out, let me find two bands that are great and I'm going to dump everything into them, which is a great business model. You do it, God bless him, but I'll never forget, and I did a lot of work with Bill Matoyer, obviously. Mm-hmm. I'll never forget being in there. I think Cryptic Slaughter or some band, like, they're running around the studio that has a nice Trident console and stuff with squirt guns. You know what I mean? It's like, You got to be kidding me. The guy literally had a drum set that went 10, 12, 10, 12. And he goes, can you make that sound like 8, 10, 12, 14? You know what I mean? I go, well, I'll give it my best shot. I mean, there was some crazy drum things going on. I mean, just like crazy, like dudes would show up with 15 toms and 14 cymbals, and the cymbals were this high from the tom, and he wanted to know why he couldn't get separation. It was like a learning process with all these people that was just like kind of common sense guys.
Yeah.
72 cymbals ain't working. I think Bill Matoyer had the best line of all time, and I know Zelgin would cringe, but he goes, cymbals, just a bunch of white noise.
Well, and that I completely understood why a lot of producers and engineers, and it's probably more about a pop sensibility for the separation, but recording all the cymbals after you record just the drums. Record the skins, then record the cymbals after. That way you have total separation all the time. But yeah, what you're saying, where the whole room is full of drums, you're probably better off with just overheads.
Well, I went for a little different philosophy. And if you look at my set, there's only 2 crashes, one here, one there, two chinas, one here, one there, 2 splashes, 2 hi-hats. Now, I'd like to tell you that I sat down and figured this out with a mathematical formula, but it just evolved this way. So, but anyways, when I look at it, I go, oh, well, wait a minute. Anything you can play with your left, you can play with your right, so you don't have to cross. Okay. And when I record, it's very separate. I mean, come on. You're really going to tell me the difference between a 16, 17, and 18 and 19-inch crash and a rock song? No.
Not really. No.
No. And it's kind of like, you don't need the 3 chinas here. Believe me, it's not going to happen. So I kind of went for that philosophy. And then the bigger philosophy that a lot of drummers never really, quote, got was, why don't you sit down and create your parts thinking of what it's going to sound like through stereo speakers? Okay? You're playing this, and again, we all learn through this, because believe me, I used to shove so much crap in a drum part and then wonder why I couldn't hear certain things. No, I think it's a maturity factor. I think you kind of grow up and hear that, but then you get to utilize that as a tool. That's not a bad thing. Oh, now I realize this. Okay. Whoever wrote in the Bible that you have to hit a crash cymbal on 1 every time? Hold on a second, and you just start developing different things. And so, my recording technique is really kind of simple. I play a small 4-piece kit. I don't need 25 toms. I got a high tom, I got a low tom, and I got a kick. So technically I kind of have like 3 toms. And you just make it work, and the creativeness comes from that, interplay the cymbals, whatever. But it's just been a lot of years to really refining it. And I kind of knew where I wanted to go. And it was just a lot of hard work and practice is what it is. But yeah, a lot of guys, the recording thing, you got to think about it, What's it going to sound like coming back to the speakers? Oh, I forgot. And you got 2 Marshall stacks to compete with too. Yeah.
Right.
You really need that crash there. You really think so? So
I think Led Zeppelin kind of figured a lot of stuff out early on with Jimmy recording with tiny little amps with no distortion, and because the way the microphone is hearing it is not the way you hear it.
No.
So you listen back, it's going to come back at you different.
We got to ask real quick about Warlord, because I know you got the Warlord record coming out. I know we're running a little long, but if you could bring us up to speed real quick, the album is called Free Spirit Soar.
Yep.
And tell us when it's out. I understand it's a tribute of sorts to your former Warlord singer. Is that
no guitar player? Bill
guitar
Thomas.
player. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh, no
guitar
problem.
player.
He's dead. He doesn't care. No, I'm just kidding.
When does it come out? What can we expect?
It's in the beginning of May. I think it's May 5th. It's on High Roller Records. They've been great to us. They did all the reissues and these massive packages of this Warlord stuff. Basically, what happened was Bill had been very sick for years, and we were trying to get things going. I had certain ideas that he had sent me that I was working on. He was just very sick, and he just couldn't get it going. So he passed away, and obviously right when he passed away, I said, hey, man, the Warlord thing's done, ship sailed. And because it kind of hit me really hard, like, Mark, there's no more gigs with Bill, okay? I don't care if in the old days, we'd prop him up, but I go, no, and it was kind of tough there. I knew it was coming. It was inevitable. You just sick for so long. You could just see it. But then about a year or 2 later, Giles Lavery, the singer, who was on, did the live shows with us and stuff, and he sends me these emails that he has from Bill going back like 5-6 years saying, hey, I've told Mark this 100 times that, if I'm not here, I don't want to do it. Just go get another guitar player and go play. He goes, I want my music to be out there. He goes, if you guys don't play it, it's just going to die. He goes, I have no problem. Go get another guitar player. Just learn the parts and go play. And then in another email, he talks about how these ideas that we've been working on and these different ideas. And he goes, feel free to put them out. He goes, feel free to work them up, put them out, do it. It's not like we kicked the guy out of the band, and it's not like the guy didn't want anything to continue. So we just started looking at what I had and some of the other songs that Giles had from him and old demo tapes and stuff like that. And with Jimmy Waldo and Eric Juris, who was playing guitar, we put a record together. But the whole premise was right off the top is this has to sound like Warlord. So Eric, the guitar player, very intelligent, really good player, cop Bill's 1980s, Electric Mistress or whatever pedal he had or whatever. The sound to the T. It was Bill, Plus we had Bill's tracks that actually show up on the record too. So I had his individual stems that we used to build the songs. But so Eric copped that to the T. Jimmy Waldo went in, wasn't the biggest Warlord fan, didn't really know too much about the band, and he's not really that kind of neoclassical kind of player, but he went in, listened to all the records, all the songs, and he really copped the sounds, and really in that Warlord fashion. And Giles actually was a better friend to Bill than I was because they hung for months at a time in Florida. Me and Bill had a business relationship per se in a band, but we didn't hang per se. We lived in different parts of the country. So he was the perfect guy to come in. He knew the Warlord sound. He knew the Warlord philosophy. He knew what Bill would like and what Bill wouldn't like and how he would do it. So that's how it came about. It's a tribute to Bill in the respect of it's his music. We kind of massaged it. There, you're talking about, cassette tapes from 1980. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
We had to do a little massaging, but,
told you to, right?
What's that?
He told you to, right? He
absolutely,
basically
exactly.
gave you his
That's
blessing.
That's the best part of the story, I think.
Yeah.
Well, what happens, and this happens with every band, obviously Riot went through it and other bands as well. But when this all happened and we talked about it, there's that negative kickback. Everybody thought Zonder's doing it for the money, which and I know in this business, what the hell is money? Money.
Yeah.
What's that?
well, unless you're Bruce Dickinson, but that's a different interview. But
Yeah.
no, yeah, I'm doing this for them. Please.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when we did this big article with this Greek magazine and everything, we printed, Bill's email. And then these morons say, oh man, you use Photoshop. It's like, you can't win.
You can't win.
And then let me guess, if I don't do anything and those emails come out, I'll catch flack because I didn't do what Bill asked. Why aren't you doing Warlord, man? Bill asked you to do it. You know people this day and age. I mean, whatever. You can't please everybody. If you don't like it and you're not into it and you think we're, committing a sin, turn it off, don't buy it, don't come to the show. But there's plenty of people that want to see it. There's plenty of people that would love to see it. We're not going to go out. We're not playing blues jams. We're not going to let Eric solo over parts that he shouldn't. And it's going to be note for note Warlord. It's not going to be, hey, Eric, here's the lead. You play what you interpret the song the way you want it to be interpreted. No, we're playing cover tunes for all intents and purposes. Play it the way that's what people want to hear. They don't want to hear Eric's interpretation. And by the same token, when I went in to record it, I took that Mark at 26 years old philosophy. I wasn't going to get in and start playing polyrhythms and break out the electronics and try to make it all, A through Z or whatever. It's like, keep it in that same straight up metal, Rainbow, Sabbath, Uriah Heep vein. And that's what we got. I thought it turned out extremely well.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy that you moved forward with your bandmates' wishes and his music, and we'll look forward to that album in May, you said.
It's coming out in May, and we actually have dates that we're playing in Europe, August, and August, September, October, right in that area. And they're even booking things for 2025, possibly close to your guys' neck of the woods kind of thing. So
nice.
We're what we're trying to do, and I know a lot of people are skeptical, like, well, what's this going to sound like? And they're not sure. We're going to go out. We're going to blaze. We're going to play some great shows. The band's going to be overly tight. And then we'll see what the crowd response is and who wants the band and who doesn't. If everybody says, you guys suck, go get a real job, then we won't do it. But I don't think it's going to be like that, because the response that I've heard and seen, they just want to hear Warlord. They just want to close their eyes and think of themselves as 15, 17, 22 years old, whatever. Just like when today you go see Foreigner. I would love to see Lou Gramm. Okay. He's not there. Sorry.
There was anybody else.
Yeah. Well, that too. But the bottom line is, if I went because I wanted to go, well, buddy of mine was in front of house too, so that didn't hurt. But it was great. It was amazing. You have high caliber players, and that's the difference between some of these tribute bands and like a band like Foreigner, like what they're doing. They're playing it note for note. Is the sax solo guy come out and play something different than what's going on? No, it's note for note, and everybody goes, "Oh my God, this sounds amazing."
Yeah,
that's all it is. That's what music's supposed to do to you.
That's the beauty of music and the magic of it, right there.
Absolutely.
Mark, thank you so much for joining us today, man. It was a real pleasure getting to know you, and congratulations on an amazing career. You've done some amazing things, and I think it goes without saying that you're one of the best drummers out there. And I think it's amazing that you got to follow your dream, and you're still following it, and you still have the enthusiasm of a fan, and you're doing it because you just love to play and you don't know how to do anything.
Yeah, you make a lot of people smile.
Yeah, man.
I appreciate it, guys, and we'll definitely be hooking up when we're in your part of the woods there, without a doubt. I will definitely keep in touch and keep you updated.
Please do.
Get to the Warlord stuff. Obviously, the A through C stuff is, I mean, the truth is, I love the Warlord stuff, but that is what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I love doing it, but the A through Z stuff is the stuff that I think, is the stuff that's supposed to open the doors. And that's the stuff where people, just sit back and go, oh my God, kind of thing.
Yeah. That's what happened to me.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
It's great you have all these colors to paint with, and everybody likes your work.
Yeah.
So, I appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. On behalf of my co-host, Jason McMaster, I'm Metal Dave. Special thanks today to Mark Zonder from Fates Warning, A through Z, Warlord, and many others today on the Talk Louder podcast.